Everyone, so since you guys really love our Dolly Tales episodes, we have yet another one, and what inspired this was when I was rewriting some personal fun facts on Flickr about some of my Bratz dolls, and I was thinking a lot about my dad, and it occurred to me that with Father's Day coming up and the anniversary of my dad passing away in May, and also his birthday, it was in April, I just thought it would be an appropriate time to show you some of the dolls that remind us the most of our dad. Now, please be warned that we have so many dolls that remind us.
We literally had thousands of dolls to choose from for that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's gonna be a lot of Bratz, but I tried to have a variety too, because if you follow my channel, then you know that Bratz were a really special thing between me and my dad. So it was really hard to pick only a few. And we are going to tell you a little bit about what kind of person our dad was. We are going to be filming one of these about our mom, dolls that remind us of our mom. We have it planned, we have the dolls written out and stuff. Dad was one in a million kind of person. He had a personality that ranged from being he was really emotional. He was a turbulent person, I would say. He was he could be the most happy, sensitive, loving person with a big heart that would do anything for anyone. But then if you got on his bad side, he would just go crazy, and he had a temper. He could be very scary when he was mad.
A lot of yelling.
He could say things. He acted like a big kid a lot of the time, after Mom died especially.
Really spontaneous, and whether it was, oh, let's go out shopping at 8 o'clock at night, or I decided I don't like our living room anymore. He had a reputation for never finishing a project.
Dad was really creative. He had all these ideas. He could fix things and build things, just didn't have the follow through. And he tended
I'm surprised we have a roof on the house.
Yeah, he had a lot of grandiose ideas and plans, and this dates back to when he was a kid. Our Uncle David can confirm this. The dad would buy all the stuff for a project and be all gung-ho, and then he'd be on to the next thing.
Yeah, I noticed that Dad's typical trend was he would spend all the money, buy everything he needed, take apart whether it was a car or a room of the house.
The deconstruction phase.
Yeah, get into the deconstruction phase, and then he just oh, yeah, it's all apart. I'll put it back together when I feel like it.
Couldn't finish things, and he also lacked in the parenting department. He tended to buy dolls as a way of instead of modifying a behavior that you didn't like, and
here's a doll.
He'd apologize if he hurt your feelings or if he did something that wasn't okay, but he wouldn't change the behavior. He'd just kind of buy you a doll. So it's as much as I love having dolls, and as much as they remind me fondly of him, just keep that in mind that a lot of the dolls were bought because Dad didn't really know how to step up sometimes.
It can smell like
he wasn't a perfect person, but I try to talk about him in the best light possible because that's how I want to remember him. As in the words of Linkin Park, leave out all the rest. So without further ado, we're going to show you the dolls. And I'm just going to kick it off with the lone American girl in this video because she's right here and I don't want to forget. So, this is my American girl, Kia. I know it said Kaya. For some reason, when I say names the wrong way, it triggers people, but that's what I called her as a kid and what my dad said her name is pronounced as, so sorry. I got her as a good report card gift. And why she reminds me of my dad is for several reasons. Number one, when American Girl was out when we were kids, they only had originally, when we first got into them, the original 5. Then they added Josephina, then they added Kit, and then Kia came out. And before Kia came out, Dad would always say that they needed to have a Native American girl. And we would have these conversations about it. And then when she finally came out, even though Dad didn't know any of the characters except who Addie and Molly were, he was pretty excited and was oh good, they should have done that long time ago. And it took me a while to finally get her. I got her in 2005, so it was about 3 years after she came out, and when I finally said I wanted her, he was oh, I was wondering when you were gonna want her. He always knew who she was. He remembered her name. He could pick her out on display. And the reason why I chose her for this video is actually because Dad wasn't like Mom. He didn't really know how to pick surprises. He was the kind of parent that when you went out shopping, he would be I'll buy that for you, pick something you want. Whereas Mom was good at knowing what you wanted and surprising you, or finding things that you didn't know you wanted and surprising you. But Dad actually picked out this outfit for my 14th birthday, so that was one of the last things from American Girl I got. Alright, I'm gonna start with Midnight Dance Megan.
Dad was showing us a listing on Craigslist for these Bratz dolls, and I noticed there were some of like Tokyo Go-Go dolls in there. So I like helped Dad talk Shelly into going out and looking at these dolls. So
Someplace in Rhode Island, wasn't it?
yeah, we were in Rhode Island, and I remember the lady had a cat even fatter than Andy. And we were in the back seat after we bought the big bin of dolls.
This
Well, I was in the back
Craigslist one,
seat.
if you're wondering, if you know what that means.
And the bin was just full of dolls, and I noticed Megan on top, and I'm like, who's this weird looking doll? Because, you know, she's got like the purple lips and the black clothes. She looks very gothic. I'm like, who is this? And Shelly goes, oh, I wanted that one, and her eyes lit up. And then Dad, being Dad, made the inappropriate remark that she looked like she was on drugs or something.
So
And
of course I would want her.
so yeah, so Dad was being
Because there was a joke, because I have orange hair and stuff, you know, that I looked like punky.
Some sort of punk.
Yeah, he always said that to me, which I don't know. I'm not
So
a
yeah,
punk. I've never
so
been
that was
a
really
punk.
funny.
It's my Star Trek gift set, Barbie and Ken. Now I actually got these dolls after Dad passed away. However, I've wanted them since I was a little kid. I remember seeing them at the flea market when I was really little, and I used to buy Batman stuff. This guy who sold me some Batman stuff had a set of them, but they were expensive, so we got these in 2012 from a guy that Colleen used to buy a lot of Harry Potter stuff from. We got some Barbies from, and they were a really good deal. But the reason why I wanted them is because my dad loved watching sci-fi stuff, and especially after Mom passed away, I remember after school around, I don't know, 3 or 4 o'clock, when Dad would get home from work, he would put the TV on, and I would go and either lay on the floor in front of the TV or cuddle with him on the couch, and we would watch Star Trek together. And I don't know, after he passed away especially, I really wanted to get my hands on these dolls, so I named Ken Captain Kirk, of course, because we watched the original Star Trek. And yeah, it's one of those nerdy things I did with my dad, and I would just sit there and watch anything with him. So they're really special to me for that reason. I used to have a lot of fun on my old Flickr account doing like cameos with these guys.
I remember
These are 2010 Phoebe and Roxy twins.
going with Dad and Shelly to Walmart and seeing this set of twins.
Okay, when was this?
2012.
Fall 2011.
We were at Walmart doing our grocery shopping, and we saw these guys have been marked down $15. Well, Dad was like really, really broke at the time, and because, you know, he had been out of work for a long time. He couldn't get disability money. It was this whole thing.
He was too sick to work.
Yeah, so, and neither of us had a job.
So we were taking care of him and finishing school.
Yeah, and I was like finishing up school, and it was just this like really hard time. So $15 was like something that we just didn't have at that moment. So he felt all bad, and I remember he was like crying because he felt bad at the register not being able to buy Shelly these dolls.
And there was someone I went to high school with, and I mean, I graduated in 2009, so this was like 2.5 years-ish after I graduated. The kid knew who I was. Like, we used to sit together at lunch, and like, he obviously had to know.
So then like a week later, we were back at the same Walmart doing our grocery shopping, and these have been marked down to $7.50 along with Party Yes.
Dad had sold his boat that weekend.
You know, I was about to say, and Dad had just sold his boat. So basically, Dad was happy because he had money in his pocket that to us felt like inconceivable riches in that moment when it really wasn't. And he bought Shelly not just the twins, but also Yaz. So it was really exciting. So I'll always think of Dad when I see these.
I actually cried.
Dad bawling
when
his
I
eyes
wrote
out
about
on it.
these dolls. Yeah, so these are two of my favorite dolls in my whole collection because, I don't know, like, it's the little things, like, it's not like when Dad said he couldn't, like, I knew he couldn't buy them for me the first time I saw them. And so I tried to, like, not look interested, but of course Dad could sense it. And, you know, I felt bad that he felt bad. And that was more what bothered me about the situation. So I think what made him really special was how happy he was that he could buy them for me, because that was like how Dad knew how to show love, buying you something.
So speaking of fatherly love, Dad must have bought me a bajillion Kid Core Katie dolls just for their outfits, circa 2002, 2003. A couple years ago, we found this doll boxed for like, I don't know, $4 or something at the flea market. And it felt really bittersweet because I could just think about how Dad would have been all happy for me that I found a Katie doll. Because he was always buying me these, and I just thought in that moment how much I wish he was there to see me opening the stupid Katie doll, and I
I
wanted
think
to
that's
cry.
like one of the things when you lose somebody. It's not like the big events that you necessarily miss them the most on, at least not for me. I think it's like the everyday stuff, and we were talking to someone in our family, our aunt's brother, about this, and he says it's like, even when you're full grown and you lose a parent and it's been years, you'll still have that moment where you kind of like almost forget and you want to show them something. And I feel that way about my Bratz a lot. Like, I would love to see Dad's face if he could see how many Bratz dolls I had now, because he would get such a kick out of it.
He would, and I know he would have been really happy for me when I found Katie.
This little lady here, this is not a doll you can buy. This is my custom Swan Princess Odette doll. I don't customize dolls anymore, so she was my first custom doll. I made her in 2011. I made the stand, I made the dress, I rooted her hair, painted her face. This doll was a lot of work. And the reason why she reminds me of Dad is because he thought it was so cool that I made this doll. Now granted, like, I don't really think she's all that special. I mean, I look at her and I see like a million flaws. But Dad, I remember he would come in the room and he'd be like, oh, you little shit, I can't believe you can paint that small. And, you know, he was just like really interested in the process. And he was so proud of her when she was done that every time one of his friends was over, and this was so embarrassing, he would have me get her out and he would show everyone that I made this Odette doll. And bear in mind, this is before she had this reroot. She had like really ugly, cheap nylon hair that was like out
Puffy.
here. But he was still so proud of her, and so even though I don't have any of the other dolls I customized anymore, long story, different video, I will never like get rid of this doll.
Around 2003, 2002, 2003, I would not take the bus home from school because I always missed it. Now, the truth was I just liked talking to my teachers. So Dad said he could like sneak out of work for like 5 minutes to grab us and bring us to his office where we could just wait with him until he could go home. So, and I think he was kind of like lying about it too. I think it was kind of his excuse to spend time with us because he was really lonely. He just lost Mom, and I think he wanted to see us. This was before we had the internet at home. So he would let us on his computer, and we would go on this website, Cottie's Dolls, which we mentioned before, and the doll that I wanted the most from Cottie's Dolls was Sun Jewel Skipper. And I just ogled her there all the time. So at some point for Christmas 2003, he actually bought us a whole bunch of like 90s dolls on eBay for Christmas. And that kind of started a new tradition of buying dolls off eBay. It meant a lot to us. It was really special. But for some reason, he didn't get me Sun Jewel Skipper in that round. She was a report card thing
Princess of the Nile
when she got her Princess of the Nile Barbies. I'm still in love with her. I named her Hera.
I've talked about her before on my channel. This is Slumber Party Sasha. And if you watch my like videos and stuff, she's always on my childhood funky fashion furniture bed in my dollhouse, and that's because she's so special. She is one of the very last dolls Dad bought me when he was alive. So it was in the spring of 2012. It was the day before he went back to the hospital for the last time. We had found this listing on Craigslist in like
Craigslist 3.
the neighboring towns for mostly boxed Bratz dolls. Right before we were like kind of settling on what the price was going to be and stuff, the guy says, oh, I have some loose ones. And they were his daughter's dolls, but like I think he kind of forced her into collecting them, thinking they'd be worth something. She had like no attachment to them. So he pulls out this moving box and he pulls out Genie Magic Chloe and Miss Sasha. Now, I grew up with the Slumber Party line, but I never had any of the dolls. I really, really wanted them. And the second he pulled out Sasha, like my heart like fluttered out of my chest. And Dad always said, because he was alive for several months after this, he was just in the hospital. Anytime he would like remember the story, he would say that my whole face lit up the second the loose dolls came out, especially about this Sasha. And Dad always called Sasha doll sausage. So that kind of just like makes me even more fond of her. So yeah, I get really emotional talking about this doll.
So I'm going to talk about my other Greek goddess. This is Venus. She's Splash and Color Skipper. I got her for Easter 2003. So it was our first Easter without Mom, and the flea market was open that year. I was really into Skipper at the time. I was collecting them like wild, and I just saw this beautiful doll. She was wearing like a pink polka dot dress that didn't fit her. Was so taken with her, and the reason Venus is really special to me is because it reminds me of like what a typical like day in the life of us and Dad was. It was Easter, but instead of doing anything fancy, we went to the flea market and then we went out for Chinese food, and I remember bringing Venus because she was my new doll. So I'll always think about, you know, eating Chinese with Dad that Easter and running into a friend of his from work and talking to him for a while, and it's just something I'm never going to forget. So
Growing up with a single dad is a unique experience, to say the least. So this next lady, this is my Tycho Beautiful Hair Ariel. Now she reminds me of Dad because he actually helped me fix this doll. So I got her at the flea market in 2011, and she was my very first Tycho doll, and I was so excited. And she's like, in my opinion, the prettier version of Tycho Ariel because she's got the twinkly eyes, and she has this really long hair, and I love long-haired dolls. Well, I had her on display, and I forget why, but Colleen was trying to get her off the stand, and it wasn't this stand, it was like one of those Generation Girl stands where you put their ankles in.
I was trying to look at her shoes.
Yeah, and it wasn't her fault. We didn't know it at the time, but Tycho dolls are really prone for breaking their leg, and her leg broke off. Colleen came in the room and she felt all horrible because she knew how much I love this doll, and I didn't have many Ariel dolls at the time. I had like 5 maybe. So she was really upset, and I was really upset. I was probably crying.
And Dad was yelling at me.
Right, and it wasn't her fault. Now, Dad did not know the proper way to fix doll legs at the time, and neither did I. I could have easily fixed her correctly now, but he spent forever trying to find a way to fix this doll, and that's why I brought her out, because I remember we would go to like the hardware stores and Home Depot, and he would walk up and down the aisles with me, and he'd be like, how can we fix her, what can we do, and he would think and think and think and think about like the best way. So this is actually something I've seen other dads do. So yeah, this is a screw, and it goes into her hip, and there's actually a wall anchor in her hip.
This is my homecoming queen, Skipper. She's another one that I used to look at back around 2003 on the computer on Cotty's dolls. She was my other, her and Son Jewel were my 2 big Grail dolls. And for whatever reason, we never got her on eBay, and I just really liked this doll and thought she was gorgeous. So we were at an indoor flea market in, was it late 2011 or early 2012?
Sometime in there, yeah.
The seller that we got our dolls in the 70s bin from had some box dolls. And there was her and there was a blonde one like her, and they were like $10 each. And Dad got me both, and Dad was so happy for me because he knew this was something I wanted, because I mean, it's not like he remembered when he saw it, oh, that's the one she wants.
Right,
but when I said, oh, this is the one, you know, I really want, he was really, really happy for me. And it was probably like, because that was so close to like him going back to the hospital and stuff, that was probably like the last time he was actually with me at a flea market, helping me buy something that I really especially wanted like that. So she's kind of like a special memory. So.
This is True Hope Cameron. Oh boy. So, oh god. Both my parents had cancer, if you didn't know. My mom had breast cancer, and my dad had pancreatic cancer. And brats were obviously me and my dad's thing. And this was way back in the beginning of 2012 when we heard about the launch of the True Hope line, and it was supposed to come out June something that year. And anytime I'd say there were new Bratz dolls out, Dad would be like, oh, we can go out and get them, even though we were broke at the time. But I remember specifically that day I was on the computer, and he came up behind me, and I said, oh, look what they made, Dad. They made Bratz dolls for cancer, and they donate a proceed of the money to like this charity. And they're bald, and they're really unique. And Dad said, oh, that's right up your alley. And he said that, oh boy, the day that these dolls came out, he would go out and buy me Cameron, because I was really, because I was really into the boys at the time, still am. And we never got to do that. So.
Yeah, I guess he died in May. Cameron came out in June.
So Colleen and I didn't go out the day these dolls launched. We went out sometime a few weeks later. And so I didn't think it would be you. I thought it would be one of the other ones. And we actually got him and True Hope Jackson, who was my first Moxie Girls doll. And we got him in honor of my dad. It's kind of like when the 2015 Bratz came back. We went out the day that they came out because my dad would have wanted to take me out when Bratz came back.
I'm going to switch to one that's not going to make me cry. So this is little Zoo Pal Stacy. And around 03, 04, we were just like really like shop happy, buying a lot of bin dolls, buying a lot of group dolls. I believe this one was one that we got inside our local flea market with a handful of others, including some other Stacy's, and her little Kelly that goes with her. Kind of like Dad haggled and got them all for a deal, but they weren't actually bin dolls, they were separates. I remember it was around the same time Dad bought Shelly her Malibu Beach bus. And it was really cold that winter. So instead of putting dolls in the basement like we usually did, Dad said we could play in the living room. So we did, and we actually have some pictures from when we were playing dolls in the living room.
Some dolls from our photo album, Dolly Tales episode.
I just remember playing with her in that time, and it reminds me of, you know, playing our doll game. And I think the reason I picked her is because I know that we were playing with a lot of our regulars too. But because she wasn't a regular, she's one that I remember of that winter. And my dog Skippy sitting on the couch, and I just remember like that time with Dad watching us play in the living room. So even though we were in our teens.
So this is my reproduction Francie doll. Now, I don't even know if I knew who Francie was when I was a kid, but I was probably about 13 years old, and we were at this flea market we used to go to all the time, and this woman had this Francie doll boxed. And I was intrigued by her because I thought, oh, that's a really unique, old-looking Barbie, and I knew she was a reproduction, but I liked reproductions because my first Malibu doll had done a reproduction. So Dad kept offering to buy me her because he could tell I was into her, but I was like, no, I don't need her. So as we got to the end of the flea market, we found this vintage Francie house. It's like one of those cases that opens up and it becomes a house for the Barbies, and it's like a real Francie house. It's in my 60s, 70s, and 80s playset Barbie video. So I am such a sucker for old playsets. Like, that's my favorite era of playsets, like the 60s and 70s. So Dad was like, oh, I'll buy you that house. And after we paid for the house, he said, well, now that you have the house, you have to go back and get the Francie doll. So we went back, and he got me this Francie doll. And I guess it's just like, it seemed so simple at the time, like so meaningless at the time. He brought me lots of dolls, like on impulse, just like that. But it resonated really deeply with me, and every time I think of Francie dolls, I think of him and I think of that house, and that's why she's one of my favorite vintage friends. And
so we first got back into dolls around 2011. One of the first things we did was we kind of decided we were interested in vintage Barbie, which is something we never truly explored before. So we were looking around at a lot of antique stores. At some point he bought me like that case I have as a Skipper scooter and my scooter doll. But my favorite find from back in those days when we went antiquing is we were at this smaller one that was next to a bigger, fancier one, and there was this little red-haired Skipper doll on a stand, and I think she was like less than $7. I really like her because she reminds me of those days trolling through the antique stores with Dad. She was kind of my great prize.
So this is my Spa Day Mary Kate doll. Now, Mary Kate and Ashley dolls in general remind me of Dad because I got my first ones the first Christmas without Mom. Dad always thought Mary Kate and Ashley dolls were ugly. He always used to make fun of the real Olsen twins. You know, it would be Harry Kate and Trashley.
Or Scary Kate.
That was my dad's inappropriate sense of humor. For my 20th birthday, he let me pick out some things on eBay. And I got Signature Aurora for a really good deal. And I also found this Spa Day Mary Kate. Now, I actually was looking for the Curl and Style Mary Kate to go with my childhood Ashley, but they didn't have one on eBay at the time. So I decided to get her because they're kind of similar in themes. And I remember when she came in the mail, Dad looked at this doll and he said, that is such an ugly doll. Like, she is so homely. There's nothing attractive about that doll. And every time he would see her on display, because I used to have a little like shelf for Mary Kate and Ashley's in my room, he would point around and be like, that's the ugly one. So she's special because she was a birthday gift and because he just loved to call her ugly. And I mean, she kind of is. Like, I'm not going to lie. I can see the argument for it.
Maybe I've been in the monkey house too long, but I think she's kind of
I
pretty.
can see it either way. It's like a brass doll. You can look at it and I can see why you would think it was hideous or exotically beautiful.
This is one of my wedding party Todd dolls. So I didn't have a Todd doll as a kid, but I always wanted one. And around 2011, 2012, I started finding them like wildfire. So at this one big outdoor flea market, I got my first party in play, and then a few months later, by which time Dad was in the hospital, I found him. And the reason I picked this Todd doll instead of my other Todd doll is actually because Dad was in the hospital when I got Todd. I went in and I told Dad about how I found Todd, and he was so happy for me.
My scene, Jammin' and Jamaican Louie. She is, oh, my favorite my scene doll. She's another one. I'm not gonna cry. Okay. When I was 12 going on 13, so kind of at the end of my 7th grade year of school, that's when I got braces. And before I got braces, I had 5 teeth that needed to get pulled. They were all like baby teeth. Now I was able to work out 3 of the teeth on my own, but 2 in the way back actually had like big roots, so I couldn't get them out. So I had to get them extracted. So I had to miss school one day to go and get my teeth pulled.
Lucky.
And that was before they could like put the brackets on and stuff. So we're at the dentist and Dad's in the dentist office with me watching them like put the injections in, and you know, you'd hear like the cracking noise and like they'd see me pull a tooth out, and I was like drooling blood because I had so much Novocaine in my mouth. And I remember I was wearing this striped dorky shirt and it was like all covered in blood and I could barely talk, and Dad felt so bad for me, and every time they'd go to like pull the tooth, he'd see me like kind of claw into myself, and it wasn't because I could really feel anything, it was because I was like anticipating it happening. So we went to Walmart after it and he left me in the toy aisle. He just felt so bad for me. He said, oh, you can pick something. Well, I was in there and I was looking at the Bratz dolls and I was looking at the My Scene dolls, and I got my my Bratz case that says like Tokyo, Paris. I've shown it in my Bratz playset video. And I was torn between getting that and a doll. So Dad came into the aisle and he said that I could get the case and I could get a doll, and I picked Noli. And I think what most resonates with me is when we were in the car and I was opening up Noli, Dad looked at me, and I always love, this is why I have such a deep connection to dolls, because Dad looked at me with his warm brown eyes and he said, do you like your new doll, Shelly? I don't know, it's like, I'm sorry, it's just like the simple things in life, you know, like that look. And that's what I think of, like, it was that look he gave me about Bratz dolls that he gave me about this Noli, and like I didn't really play with her a ton, but she was always really special because I got to miss school, I got to hang out with Dad for the day, I got to keep my teeth that got pulled, which I thought was pretty cool. It was one step closer to getting my crooked teeth fixed, and I got a Bratz case, so win-win, all a good day.
This is my magical powers Harry. My 17th birthday, he said he was gonna buy me my cool crumb skipper on eBay, but one night when we were at KB Toys in the mall, he disappeared down what I thought was the boy aisle, and he vanished, and a little while later he reappeared with this mysterious bag, and I didn't know what was in the bag. I'm like, what's in the bag? And he said, you're gonna find out. I'm like, well, what is it? He said, well, do you want to know now or do you want to wait till your birthday? I said, I'll wait for my birthday. So for my birthday, I remember we all had bad colds that year. I remember opening him and enjoying him anyway, so I opened him and I was so excited to see him. So of everything I have for Harry Potter, this is probably my favorite piece because I just remember seeing Dad that stupid bag in the toy aisle. I'm sorry, this was the hard one, so I waited for last.
This is like the most famous doll story, I think, of all of them for me. This is Party Chloe. Oh boy. And the funny thing is, in my first Bratz collection video, someone was like, oh, you have 2 Party Chloes, can I trade you for one? And it was like, that was
wicked
like,
insulting.
that was the last doll. I mean, I was polite, but like, inside, I was like, this is my Party Chloe. Well, as we mentioned earlier when we were talking about twins Phoebe and Roxy, I had gotten Party Yasmin on sale. So not long after, we happened to be at Toys R Us, and for both people, we did a lot of shopping. So there was a sale on the party dolls, and a few others, like, the party dolls were already on sale, but then there was like a buy 2 get 1 half off kind of thing Toys R Us used to do when it counted sale items, I think. I saw Party Jade and Party Sasha, and I was like, oh, I want their spare clothes. I go with my Yasmin doll that I love so much. And I can't remember for sure if I saw Chloe or not, but either way, they had the On the Mic boys out at the time, and I was like, oh, I need the boy dolls with the mohawks, because Punk Seaton is my favorite Bratz boy of all time. And I didn't have him, so that was like the closest thing. I really wanted that On the Mic Eaton. So we found Eaton, and I ended up getting like all the party dolls basically at that point, except Chloe. At first it didn't bother me, but then in time, I started thinking about it. Why is it always Chloe? Why is Chloe always the one that I don't get right away? Why do I always wait? So one day we were going to Walmart to do grocery shopping, and it was right before Christmas. It was a few days before Christmas, and I kind of casually mentioned, oh, you know, I'm only missing Party Chloe. I wonder if she's still around, you know? I mean, she probably won't be after the holidays. And Dad's ears perk up. Chloe? Is the Bratz doll you want? I was like, yeah. I mean, she probably had Toys R Us. You know, like, I'm like not being so subtle, but like...
That's all for it anyway.
Having it up. So then he's like, but hold up. We can go grocery shopping anytime. I'm like, screw the food. Let's go get you this doll. So, long story short, that day, we went to so many different stores looking for Party Chloe. So many different Toys R Us and Targets and Walmarts and all over the state of Massachusetts and into Rhode Island probably too. So we would go home, we were looking online, checking store websites, looking on eBay. She wasn't on eBay at the time. And so we drove all the way out. It was like probably 8 or 9 o'clock at night. The whole day, Dad had been trying to urge me to get like another Bratz doll just in case we couldn't find Chloe. So we'd be like in the store and he'd be like, that's a nice doll. And that was Dad's cue. And the way that I would cue like, oh, I don't have this, he would cue, that's a nice doll. Like, I want to buy you that. So
She wound up with 7 Bratz dolls that
yeah,
night.
my Wild Wild West dolls and my Rock dolls.
Andy offered to buy her Architect Barbie, but we didn't actually end up with that one.
Yeah. I ended up getting one on eBay like on New Year's Eve 2012, so several months after Dad had passed away. But, because I obviously wanted to complete the line, but I never forgot how much effort Dad put into finding me this Chloe. And I want to say too, after that night, anytime we were out somewhere, we would still look for Party Chloe, which brings me on to my second Party Chloe. So, like I said, I got my first one on New Year's Eve 2012. And then Colleen's birthday is February 2nd, and we were out, she had a doctor's appointment, and we were out by Big Lots. And so we stopped in Big Lots, and I at that point wasn't even thinking of Party Chloe. I already had a Party Chloe. I didn't think I'd ever see her in stores. Well, Big Lots had Party Chloe, and my heart, it broke, it bust open. And I had to get her, because even though there was nothing wrong with my other one, me and my dad, on one of the last times he was home, Colleen had a job interview.
I had a job interview the day before we went back to the hospital, and that was the last time they went to Big Lots together. And they were looking for Party Chloe.
Yeah, and we were trying to kill time, and he said, oh, let's check for Chloe. And so we were looking in there, and we didn't see her, and then we went to the McDonald's right nearby. The Chloe that, like, if Dad had still been alive, he would have bought me, I guess, if that makes sense. So she's my favorite of the two, even though I think my other one's prettier.
So we never had Snow White dolls as a kid.
Just one.
And, yeah, the Perfume Princess. When we got back into collecting as adults, I feel like Snow White dolls were just everywhere. And Dad was always buying Shelley Snow White as a result. So there was her classic Snow White that we got in an indoor flea market. And the most famous 2008 Sparkling Snow White.
Yeah.
Who Dad picked up for Shelley when we weren't even with him. He bought her a lot of the Bicken ones on eBay. He bought her signature doll on eBay. Dad he got really into Snow White. He even bought Shelley those like stuffed dwarves. Snow White was this big thing they had. So we normally don't collect porcelain dolls, but I was out at the Salvation Army with my kids at my job on work study, and I saw her. She was actually in an animator Snow White box. And I'm like, would Shelley like this? I was like, I feel like she's reminding me so much of Dad in this moment that I have to take her home because she reminds me of Shelley's signature Snow White, like the skirt and the shirt, like everything about her, but like larger. So I took the gamble and I brought her home to Shelley, who loved her as much as I did, and she really reminds us both of Dad. Even though Dad never saw this doll, I know he would have bought her for her.
So we hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I'm sorry this was long, but you guys say you like it when we show a lot of dolls and we talk a lot about them. So we'll see you next time, and until then, love your dolls, love yourself, and love your life.